Alright, guys, before we get into the Miami Dolphins podcast, let's go through the rigmarole first. Remember, guys, this podcast posts every single Wednesday. We go through all the Dolphins news you need to know about, then we go through all the AFC East news you need to know about, and then we go through the Miami Dolphins fan questions where we answer hardcore Dolphins fans questions and the Miami Dolphins fan Q&A. So that is the show. If you like that, there's plenty of more episodes on my channel. So this is very interesting because the July is coming around. Training camp's almost here. There's a lot of news, and I cannot wait to do all of these videos when the NFL regular season starts, and even when the preseason starts, and even when training camp starts. That's when we're really going to start to get the news flowing, and football will finally be back. And people, I mean, you don't know what you miss until it's gone. That famous saying, and especially that's especially true for football. You really miss it when it's gone, and you really forget how long the off season is for the NFL when it's gone. So to getting into for the Miami Dolphins news, there's a couple. There's literally three things that maybe you guys didn't hear about over the past week. And if you watch my videos, you've definitely probably heard of all of these things. But obviously, this is a big news story that Adam Gase regrets limiting Cameron Wake's snaps. It was a good idea if we had the talent to sufficiently replace Cam. Obviously, you're not going to replace Cameron Wake. He's one of the greatest 4-3 defensive ends in NFL history. So you're not just going to replace somebody like that. But you could definitely put somebody in there that is pretty, good at their job at least. And we really didn't have depth behind him. So the idea of it was a good idea. If we had the depth and talent to play behind Cameron Wake, but we didn't, and it was such a big drop off on Jason Jones. He didn't even finish the season a Dolphin. He got cut, I think, a week before the last game of the season. So it was a disaster. It was a good idea to keep Cameron Wake fresh for the fourth quarter, and it really didn't work out. Obviously, we didn't want to injure him again. He was coming off an Achilles injury. His stats would be a whole lot better. A lot of people forget he didn't start for a long time. And then obviously he gets to start and has one of the best, especially for a defensive lineman to be coming off an Achilles injury. He came off that Achilles injury and was one of the best pass rushers in the NFL. I think he led the league in forced fumbles. He was an absolute beast. He should have won comeback player of the year, but he didn't, and his stats would even be better if he wasn't. But again, it was a good idea. It wasn't Adam Gase's fault. He just didn't have the talent to do it. He probably should have recognized that. I'm not going to say it's not all his fault for that. I think as Dolphins fans, we're crying for Cameron Wake to start because the experiment really didn't work. I think, it just didn't work. And you see Cameron Wake's age, he's 34, and you're like, he just comes off an Achilles injury. You can understand Adam Gase's rational, why he thought that was a good idea. You can understand where he's coming from, but it just didn't end up working because of the talent behind Cameron Wake. So he just goes on to say how he regrets not starting Cameron Wake week 1 of the regular season. We probably would have won that Seahawks game because of the Seahawks defense. I mean, the Seahawks defensive line, the offensive line of the Seattle Seahawks is really, really bad. Mario Williams actually had a half-decent game that game. That's how bad the Seattle Seahawks offensive line was. And if Cameron Wake was starting that game and Andre Branch, it makes you wonder in some games what could have happened. Maybe we get off to a hotter start. Because that was one of the bigger reasons we won on that six-game win streak is when Cameron Wake was playing full-time. So, yeah, he goes on to say how big, because, again, Cameron Wake, he had 11 sacks, didn't even start the entire season. It makes you wonder what he could have done if he did. And maybe he would have won Defensive Player of the Year. Who knows? I mean, he would have to beat out Khalil Mack and Von Miller. But I think he would have won Comeback Player of the Year. All right, so moving on from that. The Dolphins, if you didn't know, this is big news, Dolphins have not yet cleared Koamisi, who had that spinal fusion surgery, which is a very serious injury. Obviously, it's life-threatening. So he has not been medically cleared to play football, which means he still, obviously, if he did play football, he would have a chance to die. So he still has not been medically cleared. We've seen this kind of with DeAndre Levy, and same thing with we've seen this with two very, very prominent players that really smacks you in the face and is like, oh, we're playing football still, like, and you know, the dangers that football presents, especially if certain styles, maybe your body's not built for playing it. We saw that with DeAndre Levy with his concussions. We've seen that with Sam Shields with his concussions. Like, Sam Shields had severe concussions. Like, it's sad to see some of these players because they're talented. Like, Koamisi is a talented player. He's an average to above average player in this league. He's a very good pass rusher, especially for depth and sub packages. Do you know how many teams would kill to have Koamisi on their team? Maybe not kill, but you know, he's the luxury that you can have for depth reasons, and he adds that pass rushing element. He's very versatile. Same thing with DeAndre Levy and Sam Shields. Talented guys that it just sucks that, you know, it's unfortunate. It's bad. I don't know what you want to call it, but, you know, it's sad to see somebody work their entire lives to play in the NFL, and then they're talented, and they just can't get on the football field. It sucks. We saw that with Jake Long, who had one of the best. Sorry, that's my dog. He had one of the best starts to an NFL career of all time, for that 4 or 5 year stretch, and then injuries just derailed his career. It just sucks to see, and hopefully he gets better, and we see him on the football field in 2017. All right, so moving on from that, everybody has heard about this. At least if you didn't, then you're living under a rock, especially if you're a Dolphins fan, not having this thrown in your face every 2 seconds. But Adam Gase contacted Peyton Manning last season. I think Archie Manning is the one who told this story. This is more of a joke. People literally took this seriously. This was a joke. This was not something serious. I think, you know, Adam Gase has a lot of confidence in Matt Moore as a quarterback, and, you know, he doesn't just lie about things. So I think this was more of a it was a joke. Like, he calls it was more of a joke. If you don't know the whole story, you can read what he texted. I can't remember exactly what he texted him, but I think it was just a joke. He was like, "Would you suit up?" And he was like, you know, Peyton said no in a jokingly manner. Adam Gase asked in a jokingly manner, but a lot of people took it seriously because there's nothing to talk about. That's why. So yeah, that was an interesting news story. It was kind of the same situation when Antonio Brown put the Carolina Panthers helmet on, and like that's the same kind. It was just like he was just wearing it. He wasn't, you know. But people were like, oh, is he going to the Panthers? It's like, no, man. He's wearing a helmet. So that's it for the Miami Dolphins news. I told you there's not a lot to talk about in the Dolphins world. Actually, I did want to go through some topics, though. These aren't news stories, but they're topics before we get into the AFC East news. I think we need to go through some of these topics because they're interesting topics, and they're just very interesting. As this takes a while. First topic of news, if you guys didn't watch it, is really cool and a blast from the past. Mark Duper and Mark Clayton, I can't remember what, I think they were on a news station or something like that, but they were talking about how our receiver core has a chance to be what they were, which Mark Duper and Mark Clayton, one of the greatest receiver duos of all time. Mark Clayton is one of the best players not to be in the Hall of Fame. He deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. He had 19 or 18 touchdowns in a season for a receiver, especially in the 80s, which is just unheard of. And he's still not in the Hall of Fame. He's got better numbers than most of the receivers in the Hall of Fame. So it'll be interesting to see if he ever gets in. I'm sorry I'm burping like a crazy person. I have I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I can't medically diagnose myself, but it was a very interesting story about Mark Clayton and Mark Duper, and them talking about how our receiver core has a chance to be what they were, and that they saw a lot of growth from them when we went 10-6 in 2016. They were like, they really gelled together, and if they can keep that up, and they still said they have a lot of room to grow. It was really interesting, and they're just really, really raving about the receiver core that we have now, which was like you start to kind of really feel good because this group is really special, and they don't get enough credit. And, you know, if you watch this channel, then obviously I give them a ton of credit, but they are criminally underrated as a receiver group. I mean, when you have 3 guys that almost hit 1,000 yards, one of them did. That's pretty dang impressive. And now nobody else has that kind of receiver. You might have a 1-2 punch, but you don't have a 1-2-3 punch, and that's something that we have. I think the only other team that can rival our receiver core is the Steelers, because Eli Rogers had a really good year last season, and obviously Martavis Bryant's coming back, so they have Antonio Brown, Martavis Bryant, Eli Rogers, but we still have that three-headed monster that I think is the best three-headed monster in the NFL. I think you could probably make an argument for Julio, Mohamed Sanu, and Tyler Gabriel. But I think ours is the best. So because I'm biased, but hey. But it was very interesting news. It was a very interesting piece. You guys should go watch the interview if you want to feel good about your Miami Dolphins. It really makes you feel warm inside. And it's a blast from the past. All right, so moving on from that, Devontae Parker. This is a huge topic going around NFL circles, not just Dolphin circles, but Parker could have an amazing season this upcoming season because of the people are so excited to see what he can do. People who have watched him, who got to watch him in OTAs, were blown away of how good he actually looked. Because most people. Now I'm not saying. Most people in the national media are former players, and I'm not saying that's not a good thing, because it's a great thing, because you hear from, obviously, they have the best point of view that anybody could possibly have, because they either played against these people, or they played in the NFL at a high level, so they have the best point of view, right? Some of them really don't keep up with the NFL, like some of us do, so they don't know a Devontae Parker who's up and coming. So that's why I think, back to the whole thing where our receiver core really doesn't get a lot of credit. Whoever went to go see DP play, or practice in OTAs, was absolutely blown away of how good he actually looked. And that's such great news. Because I really do. I'm putting a lot. I think he is going to have a great year. If he could just, to be honest, he always has a great December, which is awesome, because that's what you really need your guys to start playing at their best. But if he can start off fast, which I expect him to do, especially since how consistent he's been. This is the most consistent Devontae Parker has been since he's been a Dolphin. If he could just start off fast, he's going to be a top 5 or not, maybe top 8 receiver in the league. I'm not going to say he's a top, because that's a really, really hard list to crack right now. But he's one of the best. He'll be one of the best in the league for sure. And again, a lot of people forget how great of a run after the catch receiver Devontae Parker is. He's not just everything else. He can also take it to the crib. And we've seen that multiple times from Devontae Parker. The most notable play in his career was the touchdown against the Bills. People forget that touchdown against the Jets in garbage time, but that just goes to show you off the talent that Devontae Parker has. So yeah, really interesting story if you guys want to go read it on Bleacher Report. But it kind of chronicles the entire story of Devontae Parker's OTA so far, and it is really interesting, and you guys should go check that out. This is an interesting topic. It's we talk about what the Dolphins need to improve on a lot. And they obviously that's we always, what I'm trying to say is we always talk about what the Dolphins need to improve on, not what they really were good at in 2016. I feel like I haven't even talked about that at all. To be honest with you, I'm always we're always asking questions of how this can get better, and there was a lot of things we need to improve on for sure to be a consistent football team. But there are things that we did really good last year that I think that go under the radar that we should bring up. And what they need to continue to do, basically, to have a consistency. Because that 2016 team did a lot of good things. Alright, so let's get into some of those good things that this team did. I think, in my opinion, one of the things that we really did underratedly is second half scoring. I think our offense really was statistically, it was one of the better scoring offenses in the fourth quarter, for sure. I mean, that was, that shined, I think But the game that shined the most in was the Buffalo Bills game. That was an underrated comeback. We were down 17-3 by almost the end of the third quarter against a really good Buffalo Bills secondary. So it was going to be hard to pass on them and come back with that pass rush in that front seven. But we stuck with. If that was Joe Philbin, we would have probably passed for 50 attempts. But Adam Gase stuck to the game plan like a good coach always does, and we ended up coming back on them, and we didn't abandon the run game. So That a lot of people forget about that though. We were down. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, guys. When Tyrod Taylor hit Marquise Goodwin for that touchdown, I was like, oh Jesus, no. It was tough. It was gonna be a tough pill to swallow. But Ryan Tannehill, huge third down conversion. The dagger to Kenny Stills. That was a great game. It was one of my favorite games of last year. So that's something that the Dolphins did really, really well. Was really their offense caught fire in the second half of football games, especially in the fourth quarter. So that's something we should continue to do, and hopefully we continue to do. Another thing is third down. I'm sorry that I'm burping a lot. I apologize. I apologize. I'm sure that's not the best thing to hear in your ear, but I am sorry. I can't help it. And remember, we're not editing this, guys. This is a podcast. If you're a longtime fan, you understand that joke. But what success? So basically, back to the thing I'm off track again. So another thing that we need to continue to improve on is defensive defense. Our defense on third down. Third and short, we were terrible, but third and long, we were really, really good. Like third and 6+, we were really, really good, which is obviously something to be prideful of. We were number 1 in the NFL in that category for the longest time. I think towards the end of the year we dropped a little bit, but I remember us getting back up there. I think we either finished 3 or 2, but for most of the year, like until like week 15, week 16, we were number 1, and that's something that we need to continue to do well. And then another thing that our team did very, very well, even in games that we played bad in, is the big play. If we can somehow merge those two worlds together of consistency on offense and, as Hank Stram says, matriculate the ball down the field. If we can converge those two things together, then our offense will be one of the best in the NFL. It'll be a top 3 offense in the league. But one of the things what we were really, really, really good at last year was the big play touchdown. And that, again, that doesn't come... We have the talent to do it, but it's the talent that needs to stay consistent. And Devontae Parker is a big reason for that. He was responsible for most of those big play touchdowns. So, him and obviously Kenny Stills was the most responsible for that, but Devontae had a lot of that too. He just needs to stay more consistent, and that's really going to help us to combine both worlds. So those are some of the things that we need to continue to do, and hopefully we will continue to do, and I think we will. And not enough people talk about some of the things that we did really good last year. Obviously, I'm not even going to say running the football was a good thing. I'll say an identity. I think Adam Gase is consistent with the identity of the football team, and he's also king of adjusting, so hopefully that continues to happen. We haven't seen something like that in a very, very long time, maybe since Crap and Don Shula, to be honest with you. Just the consistency and doing it in the right way, understanding what your football team is really good at, and how to exploit the talent of your football team to the best of their abilities, because this is a famous one. When Jimmy Johnson became our head coach in the 90s, what he literally told Dan Marino, he wanted to take the ball out of Dan Marino's hands, basically. He wanted to run the football more, which was just so dumb. And he literally, this is blasphemy, in my opinion, didn't allow Dan Marino to audible. How insane. Maybe, I always think about this all the time. If Don Shula wasn't fired, could we have won a Super Bowl in the 90s? Or, the late 80s. Excuse me, the 90s. I'm forgetting my history right now. But could we have won a ring? I don't know, because we definitely weren't going to win it with Jimmy Johnson. I mean, he drafted Jason Taylor and Zach Thomas. I mean, boo, crap, and who cares? I mean, I'm not saying I love those players. I'm saying when people bring up, well, he did that. I'm like, well, who crap? If Don Shula was our coach, maybe we wouldn't win a ring. A lot of people say, the innovation of the league just really passed them by. That's not true, though, because if you see his transition, I'm getting off on a tangent right now of NFL history. I'm sorry, but just to finish this, in the 70s we were a running football team, and then when Dan got here, he understood that Dan Marino was a great player, and he switched his entire philosophy in his offense and really created the spread offense in the NFL. A lot of people give credit to Don Coryell. I can't remember how you say his name right now, and Dan Fouts in the San Diego Chargers, but we really started that with Dan Marino, and we were more consistent, in my opinion. So I would give us credit for really creating the passing league back then. So basically, I don't even know what my point is. What was I even saying? Oh man, I was saying Adam Gase is a great adjustment guy. Yeah, so we really haven't seen that since Don Shula. Is basically my point. So he has that kind of in common with Don, where he sees what players are really, really good at, and he just finds a way to really emphasize that. And that's something that a lot of coaches just don't do. They're so stubborn and like my way, it's my way or the highway, similar to what Jimmy Johnson did and telling Dan Marino he couldn't audible. And then not to compare the two, but Tannehill, obviously, same thing with Joe Philbin, mainly Joe Philbin, because that stayed with even all the offensive court with Mike Sherman and Bill Lazor. Joe Philbin, not Bill Lazor or Mike Sherman, didn't allow Tannehill to audible. That was all him. That was never, I think those guys probably agreed or maybe didn't, but that really stayed consistent with Joe Philbin. But that's something that Adam Gase does not do, is he doesn't make his hurt his players. And that's something that he's really, really good at. So hopefully you guys stuck with me through that Dolphins history rant. So yeah, I kind of went off the rails there. I apologize. I mean, I was going all over the place on that one. So let's see. Is there any other news things that I think is worth talking about? Not really. I don't think. Okay. There's a really interesting article you guys can check. I'm sure if you follow Bleacher Report, of how Adam Gase, the players really respect Adam Gase. And I mean, if you can get Peyton Manning to say you're the best coach he's ever had, that's pretty impressive. Like, people don't understand how special he should have won Coach of the Year last year. Don't even let me get on this rant about Jason Garrett winning it, how stupid that was, but I mean, if anybody, the only competition he had was Bill Belichick, and the only reason that was competition is when Brady got hurt, not hurt, but suspended for 4 games, and he had Jacoby Brissett and Jimmy Garoppolo, and he's still, I think we went 3-1. They did, that's a good that's a great coaching job, and that was probably his only competition. Andy Reid, I guess you could throw in there. Maybe Jack Del Rio of the Raiders, but I think Adam Gase deserved it because he did the best coaching job by far. But it goes on. You guys can go read. I mean, it really chronicles of how he has changed the culture, and I can articulates it better than I possibly could. I'm not gonna sit here for 30 minutes and tell you everything he's done, but it's a very awesome article. You guys should go check it out. The last topic here. 2 last topics. Let's try to fly through this because we don't have to fly through anything. This is a podcast. We can take as long as we want. Camp battles. The best camp battle, in my opinion. Well, and this is a very interesting topic. Camp battles. The best camp battle is going to be defensive end. I don't think that's even close. When you have William Hayes, Charles Harris, backing up Andre Branch, Cameron Wake. That is. Whew. I mean, that's that good cooking. You know what I mean? That is the best burger you ever had. I mean, that's the best possible situation you could have at that position. And I can't wait to see. Terrence Fede. I mean, there's players in that group that are people don't really talk about, but I can't wait. I cannot wait to see that group play together, because not only are the starters but just ballers, but the crap and backups are too. The depth on that defense is amazing. I think that was the first crapping I've dropped in this podcast, which is pretty impressive. Because I usually drop 50 in the first 5 minutes. So yeah, that's going to be really, really interesting to watch, to see who. I think the depth there, other than Charles Harris beating out Andre Branch, I think it's pretty much set. So we'll see. I think that's probably the best thing. Can Charles Harris beat out? I think he absolutely can. And if he does, that's one heck of a expensive, because he will play over Andre Branch no matter how much money he's making. That's the great thing about Adam Gase and his culture that he has. I mean, it doesn't matter how much you're getting paid, you will get benched if you are not best player. The famous motto that he has, that he keeps saying, the best players will play. So moving on from that. And the last topic that I think is very interesting is who's going to be the surprise starter on the Miami Dolphins. There's a lot of different guys you could point out. I'm going to leave that up to you guys. Surprise starter, man. That's a hard one. I mean, Isaac Asiata, Charles Harris, those are 2 candidates, I think. I think they definitely would be surprise starters because, really, I don't think anybody's expecting them to start week 1. There's nobody else really I could think of that would be a surprise starter on the team. But if you guys have any good ones, let me know. All right, moving on from that, let's get into the AFC East news and rumors here. The Fred Jackson is to participate. I love how this is of the Buffalo Bills. Fred Jackson is to participate in the July Showcase, where the veterans, I think, from my understanding, they're going to actually play football games, which is really interesting. I think it's kind of like a veterans prove it preseason kind of deal. So he's going to participate in that. And the Bills have been impressed with their first round draft choice of Tre'Davious White. And the second news thing here is Cordy Glenn continues to have ankle troubles. Are still plaguing him, which is very unfortunate for him. Well, I mean, I'm not, I hate fans that go, I'm glad he's hurt or whatever. That always bothers me. So yeah, I'm not glad that anybody's hurt. So let's see here. Move on to the Patriots, because we all love them, don't we? It's the most, god dang, I don't think there's any, in NFL history at least, there's definitely not been a more talked about team. So this is an interesting piece of news. Tom Brady obviously plans to play into his 40s, and the Patriots are going to apparently franchise tag Jimmy Garoppolo in 2018, which makes you just scratch your head. Like, is he staying there for that long, or are they really, like, worried about him, Brady? Because if he is going to stay for that long, why are you franchise tagging Jimmy Garoppolo? Just draft another quarterback. Trade him or do something with him. It's weird. They want to keep him around. So yeah, I mean, I guess they are preparing for Brady's exit, because I don't know what else you could really equate that to. So yeah, this is an interesting piece of news here. This is what David Harris's role will be on the football team. Excuse me, another burp. I mean, I don't think it will be too. I think maybe on first and second down. So new signee David Harris. This is the article. Let's see who this is by. I'm just gonna make sure I don't want to steal it. Dallas Robinson. Go check this out on Pro Football Rumors. This is reporting what David Harris's role is going to be. New signee David Harris is nearly a lock to make the Patriots roster after agreeing to a 2-year, $5 million deal last week. As Mike Ritzis of ESPN explains, a pair of articles, more of a luxury edition than a need-based signing. Harris is likely to play base formations alongside fellow linebacker Dante Hightower. Like I said when they first signed him, basically first and second down. That's where he's going to play. He ain't going to play in any exotic packages, that's for sure. So yeah, nothing that we already didn't know. I mean, if you know anything about football, you already knew that. Let's see here. Let's go to menu. As I say menu. Let's go to menu. I'm just scrolling through all this stuff right now. All right, so we did the Bills, we did the Patriots. Now on to the hated Jets. As we wait for me to find the Jets, because I have the IQ of a monkey. If you guys watched NFL films a lot, which I do, they made the top 10 rivalries of all time, and they put the Patriots and Jets on there. And if that ain't the dumbest dang thing I've ever heard in my life, it should be us and the Jets. Let's see here. Do you mean we've actually? Well, I'm not gonna get into the history, but I think you know where I'm going. I'm only gonna say AJ Dewey. So let's see here. Let's see if there's any Jets news of importance here. Nothing really. Let's see here. This might be interesting. Okay, so 7 veterans who the Jets could let go. Matt Forte might. If Matt Forte gets let go, I'm not saying he's going to be a Dolphin, but dang, man, Adam Gase loves Matt Forte. He's not going to be a Dolphin, but I don't think that would be the best idea. We have too many really young, talented guys on our team that need to get reps and playing time to become something really, really good. So I don't think that's the greatest plan. So I'm sure whatever. So there's nothing to really talk about, but the Jets just talks about how the Jets could possibly, this is speculation, this isn't based on any truth, cut Matt Forte. So yeah, that's interesting. There's obviously Sheldon Richardson's been a whole deal that's still going on. Is he going to stay? Should I stay or should I go? Type deal. Just make up your mind and nobody cares. Basically what I have to say. So yeah, that's it. So let's jump into the fan Q&A. Usually we get to the fan Q&A earlier. I guess this is a good sign that football is closely coming back, because I cannot, like, seriously, guys, and I'm going to plug this because if you've made it 29 minutes in so far, I think you at least enjoy what's happening right now. But seriously, when I say, I don't know if I said this earlier, but I really cannot wait for the season to start, for some of this content to come out, because it is going to be very fun. I think it's going to, and I'm glad that we're building the groundworks for some of this stuff. And I love the community that's been built so far. This is, it's interesting, because when you start this kind of stuff, you're like, will it ever happen? And it did happen. I mean, we're a very small channel, obviously, but the community on this channel is what really matters to me. It's why I started this channel, and it's awesome. We're literally doing fan Q&As, which is just, it's amazing to me, basically, and I really do appreciate it. You guys really don't have any idea of how much I appreciate it. So yeah. So let's get into the fan Q&A. And after that sappy little entrance into the fan Q&A. Okay, God, everything takes forever to load. It takes forever to load. When you do a podcast, make sure you got all this stuff laid out. Oh my God. All right, here we go. God, how many crapping comments? Oh, this is the wrong list. Hang on, this is the wrong list, guys. Now I gotta go to. This is the problem. This is the problem right here. All right. Back to the fan Q&A. Let's do this. As this loads, I'm thinking about reaching out for somebody to do a little collab with me. I'm thinking of having a debate show where we have different guests for different collaborations on different sports channels. So if you guys have any recommendations, I know I asked for this last time, and I think you guys recommended like a couple people that I can't remember right now, but if you guys can recommend anybody else, that'd be interesting, because I am working on the concept for that show. Let's see here. This question comes from Erratic YT. He says, "Will Tannehill have a good year this year? Because if he does not, we got to let him go," as he puts it. If he doesn't have a good year, I agree with you. I don't know though. I mean, obviously, if he didn't have a good year, he would be literally holding the football team back, because it's talent. Or he won't have a bad year. But do I agree with you? If he had a bad year, should we let him go? I think it would be time to move on. Yeah, if he had a bad year. And it depends on what your definition of a bad year. My definition of a bad year is like having a Brock Osweiler. Well, not that bad. That's super. That's like you need to leave the NFL bad. But that's not. I understand what you're saying. Lou August, or Augustus. I always say your name wrong, dude. I apologize. Lou or whatever. Lou. I'm just calling you Lou. Should Tom Brady be afraid of our defense? Nobody should be. I mean, that's a weird question. I don't know. I definitely don't think Tom Brady should be, and I don't think he is. The amount of great defenses Tom Brady has played, I really don't think I don't think he's too afraid. Let's see here. The gamer. This is a personal question, but I'll answer it anyway, because I guess I will. The Gamer12345 says, "Do you like any other sports?" Yes, I'm a big basketball fan. My favorite, I love the NBA. I'm a big NBA guy. Really don't root for any team specifically. I know a lot of people might expect me to be a Heat fan. But I just kind of watch. But I'm a big NBA fan, and I think I know a good amount of the NBA. And I'm a huge college basketball fan as well. I'm a huge NBA fan too. But my family on my dad's side, this is interesting little, I guess, insight here. They're all from Kentucky. So I'm not a bandwagon, because Kentucky basketball is really, really, really good, but I have that. I've grown up with everybody around me, even back to the days of Tubby Smith. And Tubby Smith was not a terrible coach, but he was back. Like, we went through some bad times. So I'm not a bandwagon in that sense, but yeah. So yeah, there you go. So there's a little thing there, and if somebody asked me. I can't remember where this question was, but somebody asked me if I have a favorite college football team, and yeah, in that case, it would be the U, for sure. All right, let's see here. This is another question from Lou. He says, "What's your opinion on Adam Gase offering Peyton Manning to play after Tannehill got hurt?" Like, again, I think it was more of a joke. I think you guys are taking that too seriously. That was a joke. I think it was seriously. What would you make What would make you a fan of Nate Allen? If you just played well. Just play well. And I'll be a fan of you. That's all you got to do. Let's see here. Legend. That question came from E. Steven Jr. I'm sorry I didn't. E. Steven, longtime fan. Appreciate you, bro. Komisi's still. This comes from Legend. I think I answered that question, but he goes on to say Komisi's not Komisi. I'm a crazy person. Isn't medically cleared. Blah 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 blah. We've went through that in the fan Q&A. Know this, Patrick. How would you feel if Leonte Crew was cut? I would feel devastated and disappointed. I would think that was just the biggest waste of a trade of all time. But I still have a lot of faith in him, and a lot we've heard a lot of good things so far from him this offseason. Can't wait to see him put some pads on and make some plays. Okay, Ricky Ricardo says from the 3 wide receivers, who will have the most yards than second and third? Who will have the most yards? From the 3 receivers, probably Devontae Parker, if he can keep it up. Jarvis will not be too far behind, though. I would expect Jarvis to still have a 1,000-yard season because he's juice. But I would expect Devontae Parker, from what we've seen so far, to have a really good year. Brandon, this question comes from Brandon. He says, I think Tony Lippett is our best DB, and then Xavier Howard. Maxwell is okay, but does not have as much ceiling as those two. Do you agree? Yeah, absolutely. He did. Barron is a veteran at this point. We know what his ceiling is. We've seen him play his best football. We know what that looks like. For Tony Lippett and Xavier Howard, we haven't seen that yet. So, yeah, I would agree with that. David, he says, has anyone noticed the weird similarities in philosophy between the Miami Dolphins and the Miami Heat franchises in their culture, developing players, and even the draft last week? And was Bam Adebayo a good pick? And if he can play guard, LOL, you said as many questions. Bam, I actually watched every game that he played last because my family, Kentucky basketball fans, I watched the games, and yeah, I watched every game. Bam's a really good, underrated jump shooter. He's getting underrated. I think it's going to be fun for him, watching him and Gordon Draw get in the pick and roll. I think that's going to be really fun to watch. And Pat Riley done a great job with the Miami Heat. David says, are the tight end spot... Yeah, I answered this question. Yeah, both of those guys are going to be really... Anthony Fasano and Julius Thomas, one heck of a combo. David also asked, Jesus, David, will the offense be a ball control type, or will it be more big play driven? I hope, like I said earlier in the podcast, that they can merge those two worlds, for sure. David said, oh God, we're not answering that question. That one's that's political. David says, do you think that the Fins should go back to the old uniforms, like our retro alternate jerseys, full time? And what would you take for that to happen? What would it take for that to happen? It would. There's a whole thing about that, actually, and it's actually way more complicated than just that, because I think there's some kind of deal with whoever provides. I can't remember what deal are we on with the NFL right now. I can't remember, but like, it's a whole thing with the league. You can only wear alternate uniforms so many times a year. It's a whole complicated thing. It's way more complicated than you think. Should we expect? This also comes from David. He says, should we expect Miami to add anyone? Excuse me, guys. Here comes the burps. To add anyone in free agency, and if so, who? Darrelle Revis. I think Darrelle Revis is a good... should be, even though we haven't heard a lot from him, should still keep your eyes on him. Okay, let's see here. What else do we have? Ronald says, why I answered Ronald's question about Jordan Phillips. He goes, this is a question from Ronald that I did not answer. He says, Skaggs, if we acquired Tremaine Johnson, what would you give up, and how would he fit with us, or would Byron Maxwell be one of the assets we would give up? What would we give up to get Tremaine Johnson? In a realistic world, we wouldn't give up much if we traded for him, because he is going to be a free agent after this year. I don't think we would even trade for him, but if we were to give up something for him, it would probably be like a sixth round, fifth round pick, maybe. It wouldn't be a high pick. So nothing too fancy, and I don't think Byron Maxwell we would have to give up for him, because it would be basically a 1-year rental. So yeah. This also comes from Ronald. He says, Skaggs, do you think it would help both Adam and Matt to go off script in practices by going other calling plays as if it was a live game? And do you think that they'll do that to help Matt get more accustomed to the play calling? They're not going to do anything to help. I mean, they're obviously going to do things for Matt, but they're definitely going to. I understand what you're saying, but that's more on Tannehill than it would be Matt. But yeah, they do go off script sometimes. Adam Gase has talked about how he does that sometimes, but I understand what you're saying. Erratic YT, will McMillan have a breakout year with us this season, or play better than all the other rookie linebackers? Will he have a better season than like Reuben Foster or something like that? I hope so. I think he definitely has a chance to. And hopefully he wins Defensive Rookie of the Year. Him or Charles Harris, big time candidates for that. So yeah, I think he definitely has a good chance to do that. React YT, should we franchise tag Ajayi in the future? Depending on what the future looks like. I couldn't tell you who else we should franchise tag if that were to happen. Erratic YT says, can we trade Matt Moore and get another elite player from the Browns? Probably not. I don't think they would want Matt Moore. They're definitely with the youth movement right now. William Jean, he says, do you think we should bring a better competition for our offensive line than what we have right now? Myself and everyone, true fan, know that our success depends on our offensive line. That's for any NFL team in the NFL. Your lines have to be consistent to make the playoffs. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. They have to be consistent. That's the most important position on the football field is the line of scrimmage, and that's my opinion. I think it's more important than the quarterback. I think if you have an elite offensive line and elite defensive line, then your team is going to be very good. Yes, that's very, very important. And do we have enough competition on it? Yes, I think we definitely have improved that. Radic YT says, do you think... That question came from William, if I didn't say his name. Radic YT says, do you think Kiko Alonso will stay healthy this season? Yes, especially since I think he's not going to be playing in the middle of the football field. Chief Bubba says, I asked plenty of questions, and not once my name and question was answered. I apologize, Chief Bubba. If your name, I think I definitely have in the past, Chief. You've been commenting for a long time. I read your comments, and I'm pretty sure you're in one of the fan Q&A episodes. So if you're a hardcore fan and you comment a lot, like David, this is Patrick, Ronald, a couple other people, Lou. I'm not gonna name all of you, so if I left one of you out, I apologize. But tell Chief Bubba that I read his comment. Let's see here. I see this comes from Ronald. He says, I've seen posts of a few Dolphins fans saying Miami needs to get Richard Sherman and Aqib Talib because our other corners suck. I know my answer to that, but Skaggs, what do you say to those who think we need those two? I think they're idiots. I think you guys need to be patient with the people that we have now. Not that you're idiots, because I would love to have both of those guys too, but do you know how much you're going to have to give up for those guys? Those are franchise players. You're going to have to mortgage your future for those two guys, and that's not smart, because what we have in-house now has the chance to be very, very good. So that's why I'm not saying I apologize for the idiots comment. It's not what I'm saying. You just have to look at. I see from your point of view. Just you have to see it from my point of view as well, and I respect your point of view. Lou says, "What is our biggest weakness going into the 2017 season?" God, I think health. Just stay healthy, man. That's the only thing that can beat us. Just stay healthy. Lou says, how many years does Matt Moore have left in him? A lot, because he's making his bank on being a backup quarterback. I think he's got a lot more years. The Republican says, how is it that you became to like the Miami Dolphins? I've answered this question before, but I'll answer it again because I love telling the story. My family, this is the sports team, by the way. This is my favorite sports team. Other than I bleed white and aqua and orange. So I take this very seriously. Obviously, I made a whole YouTube channel based around it. I grew up with this team. My family generationally grew up with this team. So that is why I'm a Dolphins fan. It's just a generational thing. It's a family tradition. I think that's the best way I can point it. It's a tradition to be a Dolphins fan. My son's going to be a Dolphins fan. If he's any other fan, I'll have to kill him. Either that or I'm going to have to put him up for adoption. Either other way. All-Star Gabe says, how do you, God, I'm losing my voice. How do you feel about Adam Gase being able to reach out to Peyton Manning and Jay Cutler if Tannehill goes down? P.S. I'm a fan of Ryan Tannehill. Oh God, I don't think that's ever gonna happen. But I don't think that I don't have confidence in that happening. and I don't know how I feel about that either. I don't think that's possible. But yeah, I mean, if Jay Cutler wants to come down from the booth and Peyton Manning wants to get off the couch to play, okay. Again, guys, I guess how I feel about that would be pretty weird and kind of dumb at the same time. I guess that's how I feel about it. But in the spirit of, I think it's just a joke. It would be funny. I think that's how I feel about it. I think it would be funny. All-Star Gabe says, do you think Isaiah Ford will even make the depth charts? I think I answered this to the fan Q&A. I hope so. And will he? It's looking unlikely, but again, the great equalizer is preseason. Doesn't matter how bad of OTs you have or training camp. If you make plays in preseason, you have a really good chance of making the final roster. Brandon says, this question comes from Brandon. He says, Tony Lippett, our best DB? Question mark, no. The Gamer12345 says, who is your favorite college football team and why? The University of the U. And that's for, I think, obvious reasons, guys. But, yeah, that's my favorite team. I think we have, in terms of history and making the NFL, what's just stuffing that NFL with talent, I think we probably lead that category. And we're definitely top 5 in most Hall of Famers to come out of our program. Brandon says, do you think Tony Lippett is our best corner? He is our least targeted DB and has most INTs on the team. No. Tony Lippett, poised for a breakout year. I think he had a breakout. Both of those questions came from Brandon. I think he had a breakout year last year. Sean Jacobson, will the wide receiver core decline in production if one of our main guys gets injured? Depending on who got hurt. Sean Jacobson said, so it won't, even if let's say Juice got hurt, it wouldn't be that big of a drop-off because of how talented we are. Sean Jacobson says, what will the running back core look like if he got injured sometimes before week 5, aka early on? Kenyon Drake would be the starter, and backing him up would be Damian Williams and Devon Smith. The Gamer12345 says, do you think we should trade for Tremaine Johnson? No. Will you ever, Sean Jacobson, will you ever do segments on fantasy football, and do you play fantasy football? Sadly, no. I don't like fantasy football. I've never liked it. I don't understand the appeal. I understand it, but I just don't like it. It's not that I've never really tried it, ever, actually. And no, I will not do segments on it. I apologize, Sean. But maybe, I don't know. I would have to get into it. I just don't think I will. Sean Jacobson says, what can we see this year and that we didn't see last year? What can we see this year that we didn't see last year? More consistency, I guess. Hopefully we see more consistency. How many touches a game do you think Jakeem Grant will have? Who knows, to be honest with you. JJ the Boss 14, I answered that in the fan Q&A too. JJ the Boss 14 says, do you think TJ McDonald will elevate our defense to a top 10, or do you think it's already a top 10? Answered that in the fan Q&A. Napkins Nuts, Jesus God, that name. Who do you think are 5 biggest impact players this year, and how? Who do you think our 5 biggest impact players this year will be? Tannehill, because he's the quarterback. Sue, because he's the leader. Impact players. Raekwon McMillan, I think, is going to be an impact player for obvious reasons. I think he can be one of those rookies that you say, dang, man, he really helped, turn that position around for the better. We got 3 so far. 4, I'm going to go with Devontae Parker. I think he can really make an impact on this team. I think he can really elevate our offense to a top 5. And 5, Jay Ajayi, because I think he is the bell cow. Sean Smith, I keep hearing that Raekwon McMillan reminds people of Zach Thomas. Why are we not asking Zach to mentor him for his rookie season? Because, well, Zach doesn't work for us. And I don't know we already have coaches that do that. So yeah, I think that's why. But you don't want to. We already pay somebody to do that, basically. And first of all, if anybody, I haven't heard anybody compare him to Zach Thomas. I'm the first one to do that. Okay, I'm the first one to do that. So tell whoever else said that. I tell him that I started it. Devin Collins says, say if Charles Harris gets hurt, or if Charles Harris gets hurt, more reps than he should. If Charles Harris gets more reps than he should this season, what do you think do you think he will have more sacks than Wake? I think Charles Harris will have more sacks this season. I think Charles Harris has gets more reps than he should this season. What do you think that will? Do you think he will have more sacks than Wake? Do you think he will have more sacks than Wake? Do you think he will have more sacks than Wake? Do you think he will have more sacks than Wake? Do you think he will have more sacks than Wake? Do you think he will have more sacks than Wake? Do you think he will have more sacks than Wake? Do you think he will have more sacks than Wake? Do you think he will have more sacks than Wake? Do you think he will have more sacks than Wake? Do you think he will have more sacks than Wake? Do you think he will have more sacks than Wake? Do you think he will have more sacks than Wake? Do you think he will have more sacks than Wake? Do you think he will have more sacks than Wake? Do you think he will have more sacks than Wake? Do you think he will have more sacks than Wake? Do you think he will have more sacks than Wake? Do you think he will have more sacks than Wake? Do you think he will have more sacks So if he starts, he has I don't know. I don't think he will. I think he has a really good chance of having double-digit sacks, but I don't know. I don't think realistically. I don't think he would. If he started, that's a different story. Dave Collins says if Jarvis Landry does not return with the Dolphins, which team will he most likely sign with? I don't even want to think about that. I can't even think about that. Dave Collins, which linebacker do you think he will? Which linebacker do you think will have the biggest impact this season? By far, Raekwon McMillan. D'Anthony Morales says, where do you think Jarvis Landry will end his career with the Dolphins? Or he will end his career as a Dolphin. D'Anthony says, when do you expect the Dolphins to finish a contract deal with Jarvis Landry, and for how long will he be a part of the Dolphins? His whole career, and I think very soon, hopefully. Hunter Hayes says, do you think Adam Gase reaching out to Peyton Manning, oh, Jesus, God, when Tannehill got injured shows that he will settle for nothing less than a playoff run? Yes, obviously he has very high expectations of himself and his football team, and I don't think that particular story shows it. I think it shows that Adam Gase has a really good sense of humor. Josiah says, how much should we pay Jarvis Landry? He should be the highest paid slot receiver in the league. Chris Prez says, what do you think our record will be next season? I never predict records. Reynard Roberts says, what do you think what would happen if Kolo Misi isn't cleared by this season? Then nothing really would change. I think Raekwon's would start over him anyway. Ronald says, what makes you so confident in Lawrence Timmons at linebacker? He is 33 and only signed for 2 years. One, I think we have the guys on the roster like Neville Hewitt and Raekwon McMillan. He does not have to be that coverage guy on third down. Those guys can do that, and Neville has done that at a high level, believe it or not. That's the one thing he's actually really good at is coverage. So we really don't need him to do that. We just need him to be our first and second down guy, our base package guy. Ronald says, that's why, okay, you're responding to his. Nick says, do you think that we will beat the Patriots and have a playoff season? I think we definitely can. I'm not going to comment on the playoff season. I think we definitely are a playoff caliber team. Ronald says, if Miami trades for Tremaine Johnson, what would you give up? I don't think we will, and I wouldn't give up a lot either. I think, like I said, I think it would be a 1-year rental, and I would only give up like a really, really late round pick. Revive says, how do you feel Antonio Brown would fit on the Carolina Panthers? I think he would fit just fine. I think he would definitely help Cam Newton out. And then Revive says, how do you feel about Peyton Manning could still be on the table to come back out of retirement to play for Miami? I know it's almost impossible, but please give me your thoughts in the Q&A. Like I said, I think it was a joke. I don't think it was meant to be serious. So that is going to be it, guys. I'm Skagster1083. I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast. I think this was a record. I think this was a record long podcast on this channel. 50 minutes, basically an hour. To plug this, remember, guys, if you're new to the channel, you made it this far. This podcast posts every single Wednesday. We go through all of the Dolphins news you need to know about. We go through all the AFC East news you need to know about, and then we go through the Miami Dolphins fan Q&A. And hopefully I got all of your guys' questions, and I didn't miss one of them. Also, there's a new series that's going to be posted up. It was supposed to come out yesterday, but I didn't have enough time in the day to record it. I have all the production ready for it, though. I got the video ready to just record, basically. So look for that to come out. It's basically an NFL history piece, if you guys are interested in that. I could care less of how many views it gets or anything. Just get ready for that. It was really cool to make, and I enjoyed making it. And regardless if it doesn't get a lot of views or not, it's going to continue to come out. And this is a question that I remember Notice Patrick answering or asking. What happened to NFL gyms and Better or Worse? What happened to Better or Worse was I just stopped doing it. I have no idea. Same thing with NFL gyms. I just stopped doing it. I just really didn't enjoy NFL. I just stopped doing NFL gyms because I was like, this is just not. Not a whole lot went into it, obviously, and it just wasn't fun to make. That's why I stopped NFL gyms. Now, why I stopped Better or Worse? I just forgot about that. I have no idea. I think we started doing more videos. If you guys want me to continue that, if you leave that down, and I think I'll do that. I think we can do that, yeah. So yeah, but remember the NFL history thing coming out today with it sometimes probably around later in the afternoon. So check that out if you guys will. and it's an NFL history piece, and hopefully you guys enjoy it. And this I'm going to finish for sure. I will finish Better or Worse because I was almost done with it. So if you guys want me to finish that, I will. So I am Skaggs1383, and I will see you guys in the next podcast probably, or whatever next video. Oh, I'll see you guys in the NFL history video. How's that? Can't get out of here because I'm very weird about this kind of thing. Because I usually say this. I am Skaggs1383, and I'll see you guys in the next one. I couldn't do it to you guys. I feel weird about not saying it. So I am Skaggs1383, and I'll see you guys in the next one.